Tzadik K, 95, 95B, 95A. 95A, it's 7 lines from the top.
Maharsha. Today's the Yerushalayim Maharsha.
What is that?
Maharsha.
The Marsha, yeah.
Your check today.
Oh. Okay. It says like this. Iboilu, there was a shaila in the yeshiva. Lechem apanim nifsal b'masois, ein nifsal b'masois. It's a very interesting thing. In the desert, in the tabernacle, they would travel. And then when they would travel, they would have to take everything that was there and they would wrap it up, all the vessels. And they would get wrapped in special cloths. It was the job of kahas to travel to carry the things that were holy. When they were traveling, if there was bread, would the bread become puzzle because it left the tabernacle? It's traveling. So Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi, it's a machlekes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Chad amar nifsal v'chad amar eina nifsal. One of them says that it was puzzle, and one says that no, the traveling doesn't make it puzzle. Now, our Gemara doesn't know who says what. Over here they quote the Yerushalmi, which has the same Gemara, Yerushalmi and Yoma, that says that Rabbi Yochanan was the one that says that it's nifsal. Which, for us, thank you, for us to follow this, it's just the first opinion, which is Rabbi Yochanan, he's the one that says nifsal. Shua ben Levi, the second name mentioned, he's the one that says the second opinion, that it's not puzzle. Mandam or nifsal, the one that says that it's puzzle, we're just going to go through comparing verses to prove. Menachem, Rabbi Yochanan, the first generation Amira in Tveria.
Shua ben Levi is an Amira.
Shua ben Levi is an Amira. Yeah, it's confusing to us because it's quoted in Pirkei Avos, so we would think that he's a Tana. But Pirkei Avos, the last parak is a Brisa. It's not a Mishnah. That's right. It's like Shana Chacham and Balashana Mishnah. The sages taught in the language of the Mishnah. It means it's not a Mishnah. Okay. What's his opinion? The one that says that it's puzzle. Let's say it's Rabbi Yochanan, like the Yerushalmi says. Diksiv kashayachanu ken yiso. As you travel, as you encamp, so you travel. Okay? There's a comparison here between the camping and the traveling. Ma b'chana yasi nifsal. Just as when it's encamping, it becomes puzzle. B'yotzei. When the Mishkan is set up. Wish we had more Gemaras.
Where did they go?
I don't know.
We had more.
They're probably downstairs from
Shabbos.
I'm gonna look.
Okay.
Hopefully we're gonna get a lot more people.
So, can you check if the air conditioning was adjusted? Usually I'm not sensitive to it, but
What do you keep it on?
that's just something.
75?
Put it
They
down
put it on
to 72. Just lower.
72.
Okay, so just like when it's in, thank you, Shikayach. Just like when it's by the camping, that means when the Mishkan is set up, if the bread is taken out of the tabernacle, it becomes puzzle. So the same too. Also when it travels, it becomes puzzle when it.
For me, this pasuk says the opposite.
Well, you'll see.
Opposite.
You'll see. The next one is going to say that. You're right. So, but there is a comparison. So, Manda Amar Eina Nifsal. What about Rabbi Shua ben Levi? He says that it doesn't become puzzle. See, when you read this pasuk, it says clearly that that's what you're supposed to do. The pasuk says it's the pasuk that's talking about the traveling. It says that Bnei Kahas, that section in Bamidbar, when it says how they should travel, it says, and the Bnei Kahas would wrap this, and they would what type of covering the wool and the skins that they used to cover each thing, right? So over there it says that when they wrapped the shulchan, It says Yifshu Beged Cheles, and you put on it the spoons and the rods and everything. Belechem Atamid Alaviyah, and the bread is on it. So it says that the bread is on it. That means that that's how it's supposed to be. It doesn't become pasta like that. Okay. The Gemara says V'idach Nami Haksiv Kashiyachna Ken Yisod. What does this one do with the verse Kashiyachna Ken Yisod? That sounds like it becomes puzzle. That just traveling is no excuse if it moves out of the temple. So here too, it's moving out of the temple. It doesn't matter if it's traveling or camping. So the Gemara explains Le'idach Gisa. He learns it exactly the opposite. Le'idach Gisa, to the other side. Ma b'chani yasei, just like when it's camping. Kila yatzimim kaimei le'mifsal. If it doesn't leave its place, it doesn't become pasul. Is this what you wanted to say? Af b'nis yasei kila yatzimim kaimei le'mifsal. Also, when it's traveling, if it doesn't leave its place, it doesn't become pasul. Not leaving its place
Means on the shelf.
means that it's still on the table.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't become puzzle. The Gemara goes to the other side. The one that says that it becomes puzzle. Vidach nami. Haksiv v'lechem atamid alav yiyah. It says that the showbread is supposed to be on it. What is he going to do with that verse? Doesn't have an answer.
I was thinking a little different. Just like the Chanayas, that while it's traveling, Bnei Yisrael still have a mission.
Uh-huh. Are you going to
It's
see
doing
another
its
verse?
job. It's doing its job while they're traveling,
Uh-huh.
even though it's not in a square.
Uh-huh.
And
You'll
it's still
see-
doing its job.
One of the Amiraim that travel back and forth from Eretz Yisrael has a vart like that. You'll see shortly. Okay, so we don't have any answer to this. It says v'lechem atamid alav yiyah. So Elak Yasser Rav Dimi. When Rav Dimi came, Rav Dimi was one of the travelers. When he came, he brought with him a teaching. Amar b'mesudar dekol yam alei pligi. Everyone holds that the bread that's still on the shelf, that's still on the table, it's still good. We're talking about the bread that came off the table. Now, there's two interpretations what we're talking about here.
While they were carrying, it fell off.
They removed it. Right.
One interpretation is that
Oh,
it
they
wasn't the
removed
right
it.
time
Supposed
to
to
take it
remove
off, and they took it off.
Maybe-
The question is, did
maybe
they
in order
take
to
it off
travel,
on
you take it
Shabbos,
off.
or did they take it off during the week? That's the question over here. I forget. Taisus has.
When they were traveling, was the menorah lit when they were traveling?
I think it says that one candle was lit underneath.
Even while they were
I
traveling?
think it says that.
Underneath? What do you mean?
Underneath they had a thing that they wrapped
The
it up
mixer.
in. Yeah.
Every
I can
time.
understand.
What about the Ketairis? The Mizbech were also on fire?
I don't know.
Eish tu kedel Mizbech le'sichbe.
Thank you so much.
Boy, there was serious firefighters over there.
I saw two pshatim. One pshat is that it was on Shabbos, and they make a big deal about this. That you took it off on the appropriate time, and then they were traveling. And the other pshat is that no, you took it off during the week and they're traveling. The question is, did they actually leave on Shabbos? That's a discussion in the Rishonim.
But were they travel on Shabbos?
That's the discussion here, because if they would take it off, let me just see who someone was making a big deal about this. The Mesulak. Kipli Mesulak. Yeah, they learn it here that they took it off. It was Shabbos.
So what's the question?
See, it's a mincha. It needs to be eaten in the temple. But however, there's another girsa here that says Kedim Zmani. Oh, that's what's going on. Rashi says that's what's going on here. Shadayin le'yigiyas manu l'salik. It wasn't the appropriate time, but they took it off anyway. And the Pshita Mekubetza says Shesalkul b'Shabbos. that they took it off on Shabbos. So there's a girsa of Rashi that the Shita Mekubetz is a girsa of Rashi that's not. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that if it means they took it off, it means they took it off on Shabbos, and then they started to travel on Shabbos. Your question. They traveled on Shabbos. Here's the answer. You ready for the answer? Because the bread needs to be eaten on Shabbos. So they say we're talking about Yom Kippur, that was on Shabbos, and there's an exception that when Yom Kippur is on Shabbos, you eat the bread after Shabbos. So over there, it doesn't become possible by night.
So the answer to him is yes, they used to travel on Shabbos.
No, the answer is no. They weren't traveling.
No, they traveled after Shabbos. But so then, what's the question about eating the bread if it becomes puzzle? No, this was an exception where you allowed to eat the bread on Motzei Shabbos. They were traveling Motzei Shabbos, but they took it apart. They took it off, and they took it apart on Shabbos, and then they traveled after Shabbos. Okay. Manda Amar Nifsal, the one that says that it becomes puzzle. Why is it puzzle? The Ksiv Kashiyach Can you sow? That says just as like they camp, that's how they travel. Which means Nifsal, just like when they're camping, it becomes puzzle b'yotzei. Nifsal b'yotzei also when they're traveling, it becomes puzzle b'yotzei. Lamanda Reina Nifsal, what does he hold? The Ksiv V'nasa Oil Mayed. This is what you said. It says the Oil Mayed traveled. Afal Pisha Nasa Oil Mayedu. Even though it was taken apart, but it's still considered the Oil Mayed, so it didn't go anywhere. It's still there. So what does this one do? It says that if it leaves, whether it's camped or whether it's traveling, it becomes puzzle. He says Leidach Kisa. He learns it the other way. Just like when it's encamped, if you don't take it off the shelf, it doesn't become puzzle. It was still on the shelf. Okay, we're not discussing the shelf. Why does it say kilei mapikle? Miazara. Oh, it's mapik. If you don't, before we didn't say mapik. What was the expression before? Yatzimim kaimai. Here, mapik means if you don't take it out of the azara. So here, although the Mishkan was taken down, but it wasn't considered that you took it out of the area of the Machna Leviah. It was still in the area. It was kept in that domain without the Mishkan there, so it was still considered that it's in the same place. So it shouldn't become puzzle because it's not on the shelf anymore. We changed that. What does he do with the fact that it says that the oil mayed traveled? That means that it's still oil mayed. Why are you saying it's puzzle? It says ahula the golem hudasa. That's not saying that it's really considered an oil mayed. That's just saying what's the order? What's the order of the tribes? So you have to say
how could you answer
that these tribes.
The oil moed is not the oil moed.
Yeah, because it's wrapped up.
Taken apart.
But why did it call it the oil mayed? It says, well, it wants to say that these tribes went in the front, and then there was the oil mayed, and on the side. However, it's two opinions if it was a line or.
I don't. Doesn't digest.
V'idach.
It wasn't physical oil made. It was a bunch of beams, gold beams in a box.
No.
The other one says, I understand that you need to tell me how it traveled. You have to tell me where it was. You can't be vague about that. You have to say that the Oil Mayed traveled after these Yehuda or whatever tribes that were in the front. However, we have other verses that say where the Machna Leviim were. So we would know that it was always in the Machna of the Leviim. So in the Machna Leviim, you don't have to call it the Oil Mayed. The fact that he's calling it an Oil Mayed in the Machna Leviim tells me that it's still considered an Oil Mayed. Okay, so we have different opinions here about the bread that's not on the shelf, and the Jewish people are traveling. The question is, does the bread become pasta like that? Meisvei, where's the question? Shas Yilik Masois, the time of the traveling, Kachim nifsalim b'yotzei. Pretty clear. The things that are sanctified, which means the sacrifices, they become puzzle when they leave. And those that are impure, a zav or a mitzayra, they have to leave the camps. They're still sent out. It still has the same laws. My love, is it not afilu lechem apanim? Talking about the lechem apanim as well. Kachim nifsalim b'yotzei. It should become puzzle. When it says loy bar mi lechem apanim, besides for the lechem apanim. Well, asks manafshach. You can't say have the cake and eat it too. You have to choose which side you're on. Oyel mayed dafkahu. If you want to learn the verse oyel mayed, that when it says oyel mayed, it means actually that it's considered an oyel mayed. Afilu kachim nami. Why are you saying that the lechem apanim is still good? Because the oyel mayed is still there. It's wrapped up, but it's still there. So if that's the case, so then why is kachim pasul?
How would they wrap up the Mishkan when they were still kachim in it? That weren't sacrificed.
Well, they would take apart the fence. The clouds went up.
The clouds went up. Finished doing the shechting.
They shechted an animal. It's still sitting there. The kohanim didn't finish eating it, and the clouds went up. So it's time to get to work. Still stuff food on the plate.
Take it to go.
Right.
No, you can't take it to go.
That's what we're saying. It says it becomes
That's what we're
puzzle.
discussing.
It becomes puzzle. Question is, what about the lechem apanim? So we said no, the lechem apanim doesn't become puzzle. Only everything else. We said 1 second. Is it considered an oyel mayed or not? If the oyel mayed in the pasuk says oyel mayed, it's referring to this. So even the kachim shouldn't be puzzle. Oyel mayed lav dafkahu. Afilu lechem apanim nami. If when it says oyel mayed, it's just coming to tell us the way that they travel, then the showbread should also be puzzle. So Elakiyasa Ravin. This is our second Amira that's traveling. The first one was Rav Dimi. He told us that it's not talking about the bread. The question was not the bread that's on the table. The question was the bread that's off the table. Now Ravin comes and he says, Kiyasa Ravin Amar, he says, Mara b'mesuder, Mara b'mesulak. Rabbi Yochanan said his statement, and Rabbi Shua ben Levi said his statement. Rabbi Yochanan's statement that says that it becomes puzzle was talking about when it was off the table, and Rish Lakish's statement was talking about when it's on the table. B'lei pligi, and there's no machlokes.
I don't like the things.
So this is an answer. Usually,
I like it with Shubin Levy's original thing.
Usually, by the way, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to say that.
I'm not saying it's not
this
allowed,
feels
though.
better.
I like it that when they traveled, they also carried the kedusha with them, even if it came off.
In the amongst the. You want to go on? Amongst the Amiraim, there are certain Amiraim that do this regularly. So this is the first time I've seen Ravin doing this. But usually it's Rav Papa or Rabbi that do the Mara Marchada B'lei Pligi. It's another thing we should look for as we go through which Amiraim do this.
They make shalom.
Yeah, avoiding machlokes. They're talking about two different things. You'll see that it's Rav Papa often and it's Rabbi often. Like, sometimes it says all of these Amirayim, all of these Tanoim all say the same thing, and it gives me a whole list. Which Amira does that? So I've seen several times Abaya is the one that does that. He lines them up, styles. So Amar Abaya. Abaya now says, Abaya is commenting, Shma mina yesh silik masoyis balayla. It must be that they could travel by night. As we go through this, it becomes pretty apparent that they would either travel first thing in the morning, or maybe, according to Abaya, they would travel immediately by night as well. In the middle of the day, I'm not sure if it's going to fit if they were in the middle. Let's see. Because if it would enter your mind to say that ain't silak masayis balayla, we're on 95. Yeah, right after the picture. 95A towards the bottom. That if it would enter your mind to say that they would not travel by night, Emas Midley. When would they take apart let's say they would only travel by day. When would they take apart the curtains? Litzafra would be in the morning. So we said that any kudshim that were around when they traveled would become puzzled because they left the area, they left the enclosure. So my area, Mishum Yaitse, why are you saying that to become invalid because they left the enclosure? Yeah, it's right there. You're on the right spot. Typically, belina. Let's learn it out that it became puzzled because it stayed overnight, and it became puzzled because it's in the morning.
Lena, that's the word, right?
Lena is left overnight. So if they traveled only in the morning, so then as soon as they took it apart, it would be puzzled because it's the morning. It has a different puzzle because the sacrifices are not allowed to stay overnight till the morning.
Why can't it be midday? They started shafting in the morning and then they took it apart in the midday.
So that's what. So for some reason, the way it's being learned here is that we know that it's either in the early morning or else it's Bais Chiddush is that you can also leave by night. The Gemara says Pshita. Of course they traveled by night. It says to go by day and by night. That the cloud of glory was there to help them travel. Hashem went in front of them in the cloud of glory to show them the way, and the fire went to light for them to go by day and by night. That's the pasuk. The Gemara says, I could have learned that pasuk. That yes, they left by day and they traveled by night, but it doesn't tell me that they'd actually get up and travel by night. But maybe if they didn't travel by day, maybe they weren't allowed to get up and travel by night. So Kamash Malan comes to teach us that no, they would have to travel. It would have to be situations where they were able to travel by night. The karbanos would become puzzled because they left the enclosure, and even though the karbanos were still acceptable, being that the night didn't pass, because it was still able to be, it wasn't a psolina that it was left overnight, it was only a psol yaitze. Okay, the Gemara now asks for a minute. I'll ask a contradiction. Huglu aparechas.
These are all not again halacha. Whatever happened, happened. These are like more historical questions.
What do you want? What do you ask?
No, I'm saying my happened. Whatever happened, happened. What do we care?
Right.
Why have the discussion altogether?
But what about the?
If it's yaitse or not yaitse, whatever. I mean, it's happened already. It's done.
Let's discuss it in a week. We'll be finished Menachos after Chulin. We'll discuss what.
It's not relevant anymore.
No, but this
So
is
you
more.
have to
So. That's a good point. Okay, we'll see. Huglu haparechas. If the parechas was taken down, then in there's two parechas in, but it means that haparechos I have in the other version here. The parechas sins were taken down. So hutra azavanu mitzarem likanis l'sham. It says that those that were impure were allowed to enter. You said before that not. Amar Rav Ashi like kasha. Rav Ashi says it's not a question. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbanan. It's two opinions. It's common. The way that we answer a contradiction is by saying that they're each talking about two separate. We're saying that it's dealing with two separate things, or you can say that it's two opinions. That also answers a contradiction. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Rabbi Eliezer Reimer, Yachal dachku zavin u'metzeram v'nichnasu la'azara b'pesach haba b'tuma. Yachal yu chayavin. Let's say, you see, communal sacrifices, like a Korban Pesach, if everyone is impure, if the congregation is impure, and they can't bring it in purity, so they would bring it when they're impure. There was an exception for communal sacrifice to be brought b'tumah. Now, what type of impurity are we talking about? Tami Meis came in contact with a corpse, a dead body. A Zav and a Metzora don't have those leniencies. However, let's say Zav and a Metzora and push themselves in during when everyone else is impure, and they have these exceptions in place, and they come in and try to bring the sacrifices as well. Maybe they should be chayiv. So Talmud Leimer v'yishlchu min hamachna kol tzura v'chol zav v'chol tamei lenefesh. That it says you should send out of the camp anyone that has tzaras, anyone that's a zav, anyone that's impure to the soul. That means that they became impure with the dead body. At a time that the Tamei Meis is sent out, so Zav and Mitzvah Mishtalchen, then the Zav and Mitzvah is also sent out. Ein Tamei Meis Mishtalchen. If you don't send out the Tamei Meis, so Ein Zav and Mitzvah Mishtalchen. So then you also don't send out the Zav and Mitzvah. Now, according to this, if the Pareches is rolled up, and a Tamei Meis is allowed to be there, that's what we're assuming now. So therefore, the Zav and the Mitzvah should also be allowed to be there. No, we're not saying allowed. What was?
They're not punished.
Yeah, here we're saying Hutru. Hutru is a little bit more than that.
So this is one opinion.
He's going to learn. Rabbi Les is going to learn that once it's rolled up, and the Tamei Mesim are allowed to be there, so then also the Zav and the Mitzvah can
What
be
was the
there.
Lechem Aponim Mechaper? It was Mechaper or something, I can't remember. There's a specific thing that was Mechaper.
I remember it says something like that, but I don't know. So we only had that in the Gemara. We had that they would take it out to show us that the Shechina's there. Okay. A new Mishnah. Achas shtei lechem, v'achas lechem apanim. Whether it's the two breads of Shavuos, or whether it's the showbread that's brought on Shabbos, lishasan v'arichasan b'chutz. It's kneaded and it's arranged outside the temple. V'afiyasan b'fnim, and it's baked inside the temple. Ve'enan doiches es Shabbos, but it doesn't push away Shabbos. That means it can't be baked on Shabbos. It would have to be baked on Friday. The Gemara is going to ask that this mission itself is a contradiction, because if it's afiyasan b'fnim, that means that you're sanctifying it. Then if you're going to leave it over Friday night, you have to bake it on Friday. It's already sanctified. You leave it over Friday night, then it's going to become puzzle, because it wasn't even set up on the table. There's a problem with these two phrases together. Afiyasan b'fnim ve'en deiches es Shabbos. It's fine if it would be baked outside, then it would fit with ve'en deiches es Shabbos. It wasn't sanctified yet. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer kol maseim b'fnim. Rabbi Yehuda says everything was done inside. Rabbi Shimon Aimer. Rabbi Shimon says lo'elam havi ragel lo'emer. You should always be accustomed to teaching, to saying that shtei lechem lechem apanim ksheres b'azar ksheres b'beis pagi. That you can do it either way. You can do it inside. You can do it outside. We're talking about, according to Reb Shimon, the arrangement and the baking. Beis Pagi is different opinions if it means.
They all agree Vein and Darchus Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon also.
I'm not sure. I think according to Rabbi Yehuda, Kol Masem B'fnim, that would mean that it would need to be on Shabbos. That's clear. I think that's how it's going to work out. Let's see. The Gemara is going to discuss Hagufa Kasha. This itself is contradictory. Amrit lishasan varichasan b'chutz. You said that it has to be, that it's arranged outside. Okay. Alma midas yavis leinas kadsha. Why is it arranged outside? Because how much did you need? It needed to be two Yisraelim each bread. You needed to measure that out, the Isarim. So they put it into a vessel and they measured it out. Now, if it's outside the temple, and you're arranging it outside the temple, that means that the measuring utensil did not sanctify the flour. That's why it's outside the temple.
The utensil was a clay kodesh?
Well, we're saying that midas yavish leinaskach. Remember, we had a machlekes. Rabbi Akiva held.
But it had to be a vessel that was kodesh.
It had to be measured, but it must be that these vessels, the midas yavish, were leinaskacha, were never sanctified, and that's why it's still outside the temple. Right? We said kleilach. Everyone agreed that it was sanctified. The question is inside. Remember that one opinion that said midas, it was only sanctified inside. Why what spills over is kodesh because all the liquids go inside. But so there was an opinion that said midas yavish was not niskadish at all. Amar, it's supposed to be Rav. Rav says, Hiksha Adam Kasha, Shu Kasha Kabarzal.
Did
That
we finish the statement?
Amar midas yavish niskadisha. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 1 second. But thank you. But then it says that it's baked inside. Alma midas yavis niskadsha. If it's baked inside, that means that the dry measuring did sanctify it. No, 1 second. Shouldn't it be? Why does it need to be inside? It must be because it's sanctified, and that's why it needs to be baked inside. However,
when it says midas yavish, and we said it before, I thought it was because the kli was a kli kodesh, and when it came into that kli kodesh, it becomes a
right.
Yusha. Here it doesn't say that it used the kli kodesh outside of that.
Well, that's what we mean. We mean that when we're using dry measurements,
I thought it had to do with the kli kodesh more than the measurements. Take a regular cup and you measure flour for something, that doesn't make it kodesh.
no. I have utensils that are used. These utensils, some of them are kodesh, some of them aren't. Now, what the Argamar is discussing is that we know that liquid measurements that are
Was
used.
the utensils mashuach v'shemen?
Yeah.
The utensils used
That's
outside.
the discussion here. The liquid measurements were definitely Mashuach b'Shemen, and the dry measurements were not. According to one opinion.
Maybe they were, but we just used different.
So how do you know that the fiyah bifnim gives it kedusha?
Why are you saying that you need to bake it inside? It must be because you consider it sanctified. How to get
Even though it wasn't
sanctified?
Even though it wasn't mashuach v'shem.
How to get? From what did it become sanctified? There's one opinion. There's different opinions
Did
of when
they not mashuach v'shem in the oven?
Oh, very good, very good. There's different opinions here where the bread would get sanctified. Either it gets sanctified in the no, this is it. This is the
continues.
Either it gets sanctified in the vessel, or it gets sanctified in the oven, or it gets sanctified